So
We're going to record now, so we missed Nicole's introduction, but go ahead, Mel. And then Nicole, if you want to speak up after Mel, yeah, it'd be nice to have it on the recording. Thank you. I'm not sure what we're doing with the recordings, but it's good to have a record. Go ahead, Mel. I'm sorry to.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just am feeling okay about all of this. I feel like things all happen the way that they should, and I like to keep my energy in that. It seems to me, from what I've heard, I've never met James before, but from what I've heard from everyone that knows him, it seems to be not the most positive. So if this is a thing that pushes us over to separate and start something new with fresh name, I know Linda, I know her heart. Everyone that meets her, they trust her, they love her. And so if we need our own thing with our own image and own identity, I think it's perfect. So that's how I feel out of this point with the limited knowledge I know. And I'm done. So Christina.
Hi, it's Christina. I am currently with them on Vision Quest. I am sorry to hear what's happening. I am with Linda. I am in full support of Linda and Jen, and I hope to get out of this that we are rising up stronger and better than before, and we are beginning new. I am complete.
Want to call on someone? Maybe Nicole up there.
Okay, Nicole.
Do you want to restate your introduction and how you feel and what you want to expect today? Get from today.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that I'm feeling relieved about hearing about kind of breaking off some of our ties, and that's really what I wanted to get out of the meeting. So with that, I'm complete.
Cool.
And then I also did want to mention, though, that I am a little apprehensive about hearing that they want to file suit against Harper Magazine, because that could just create a whole huge mess. And so now I'm also feeling concern about that, and I'm hoping to hear some opinions about that today.
Cool.
And I'll pass it on to Lynn.
Sure. Thank you, Nicole. Yeah, it's been an interesting. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Say something.
Yeah, normally you'd be last because you're conducting the call, but we're going we're a little crazy, so just
fair enough. I'll throw this in. I'll keep it short and sweet. So I'm really focused on needing some clarity and transparency. I think everybody has a real strong desire and needs that, and as well, ultimately putting all of the information out there so that we can make some decisive actions as a council and ultimately determine our fate, as opposed to being pulled into someone else's mess. I know that I believe that everybody here is here for right reasons, and I hope that we can organize and unite under correct purpose. So thank you with that.
Yep. Pass on.
Hey, Joey, would you like to?
Yeah, I'm doing all right today. It's been a pretty successful day for me. And what I'm looking at and getting out of this meeting is just, a sense of where everybody's going. I read the podcast. I heard a podcast. I read the Harper's article, and I've done some other stuff looking into it. And, I'm pretty comfortable with it. And I think that there's enough people here with some education and some experience and some passion that we're not doing anything wrong. Maybe it's a big paradigm shift. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm looking forward to see what the group conscious results in from this. Well, thank y'all. And I'll pass it to Kate.
I figured. Hey, everybody. Yeah, I love what everybody has said. I like what Lynn said too. Just really like tuning in to what part we play in this. And especially me, I've been observing more than I've actually been, I wouldn't say participating, but for me, I'm just wondering, where do I fit? Where's my skill set, my passions, and so I just believe that there's going to be a point where I'm like, oh, I got it now. That's why I'm here. And so other than that, I'm just enjoying hearing about everybody else, where they're fitting, and yeah, just allowing this to unfold. And so with that, I'm complete. Billy, you want to go? Yeah.
Wow. First, I just appreciate all of you and what I'm hearing from you. I too have been looking to see, you know, anytime you tread in tribal belief, territory, work, for me, that's sacred ground, you know. I'm a weaver and a spinner, and I could do Navajo rugs, but I do not because they are not mine to do. And so I have really tried to listen carefully about this organization and what I can contribute and how the broader context is really helping me find my way here. And I want to say this about Gent. I was at the very first ceremony that he led as medicine man, and I watched him become gentle eagle in front of the fire. I watched him love 12 people into transformation that night, that week. Vision Quest, we held it at my house, and I'll never forget that experience. I'll never forget the light around Linda as she sat as witness to that unfolding, and they will always have my support. He will always have my support. So I'm very grateful to the group for your knowing and seeing who they are for the world and the contribution they are seeking to make. And so I'm glad to be here today. I almost wasn't on the call, but I'm very grateful for the presence of, you know, talk about skill set. Kate, oh my gosh, I know why you're here. But the rest of you, thank you so much for who you are and how you show up in this space. And I'm grateful to be among you today. I'm complete.
Oh,
Pass it to let's see, who's here that we haven't passed it to?
Sergio and Leah.
Sergio, I'll pass it to you.
Hello, guys. Good to be here with everyone, and I feeling good today. Lots going on, lots moving, and I really want to just get clarity today on what is happening and how we are moving forward. What's all happening, and just sharing out this conversation with everyone for clarity. And you know, on the Wikipedia pages, it's just pulling more and more stuff. We've had good movement on that, but we'll talk about that. Thank you for everyone. Thank you for being here and allowing me.
Sure, you want to pass it to Leah?
Yes, Leah.
Hi. Wow, yeah, so I'm here and I have met James and more than once. And he had nothing good to say to me because I serve Jaguar and he disapproves wholly and completely. As far as the situation with Linda goes with the church right now, years ago, whenever he tried to do this to her, I thought she should have cut and run, but she stuck with it. Good for her. And now he's back doing the same thing. I see a pattern here. So I would really support the organization to just break out on its own. We know how to do that. We know how to set up these organizations as 501c3s, as churches, as all kinds of entities that have legal protection. I don't know what more she would get from being under the thumb of James. So, you know, it's her call, but I would support her in moving on. This has taken a lot of energy over the years, and it's been many years. I think what he is asking of her is unreasonable and irrational. I'm complete.
Cool. And then you would pass it on to whoever's left, and that's me, Leah.
You, Stephen.
And he's projecting, by the way. It's unreasonable and he's projecting. He wants to say it's somebody else's fault that that article went wrong. Wow.
And that article, by the way, if we could just add, Harper's Bazaar and Harper's are two very different publications, and Louis Lapham was the person who created Harper's. very liberal. He's no longer there, but he's on the board, and I doubt anything would win with him. He'll just go after them.
Yeah. And now Sean has appeared, so we could hear from Sean. How you feeling, Sean? How are you feeling, Sean? And what do you expect from today's?
I've had a rough couple of weeks, and it's probably going to get worse. But so that's how I'm feeling. As far as today, I just want to participate in the discussion, and if there are things that we can talk out and get working, great. I probably will be gone the next couple of weeks because of some family things that are going on. So anyway.
Okay, so you'd pass it to me.
That'd be fine.
Cool. So I'm grateful to be here too. To me, the whole thing with ONAC is just one more wave in the ocean of troubles, that just pass by and they just keep bashing. Every once in a while there's a backwash and then it comes out again. I think that there's some really wonderful things to be said about James F. Mooney and James Mooney, and we're going to sort that all out. And I've never understood. There are just a lot of issues that make things very convoluted, and usually when I seek the simple path, it's elusive, and I don't think there's any simple path. But I think that with the love that's here in this call, and the insight that's on this call, I think we'll be in fine shape. And I'm happy to support. It's a challenge, but I'm happy to support whatever we decide as a group. So Lynn, you're kind of conducting the meeting today. We're supposed to co-conduct. And so what's coming up for you, Lynn? How are you feeling at this point, and what do you want to create today?
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to, if we can, pick up where we left off, the end of our last meeting, as best we can. I know there have been some developments that have come just recently, and some new information that we should certainly have a conversation about. But I'd like to actually come back to you, Steve. I'd really like to give you an opportunity to expand further on your perception of the article. And I know that you had some additional points that you wanted to bring up. I think there's a lot that we need to unpack here for everybody to be heard and understood, so that we can hopefully, my desire today as a council is to arrive at some direction, if not specific solutions, in terms of how we progress moving forward. And I think that because of the urgency of this happening now, we need to make some decisive action in a relatively short period of time. So I hope that everybody is kind of signed up for that and willing to offer truth and transparency and collaboration as we navigate this together. This is all something we've kind of had thrown into our laps, and it's just something that we need to address in order for us to be able to be healthy and to grow as a community and grow through this, hopefully to rise to the occasion. So Steve, is that okay? Can we circle back to you first? I think that you didn't really get a chance to complete your thoughts.
My thing is that it's just so easy to engage in peripheral stuff. I remember watching Night at the Museum with Ben Stiller, and at the beginning of the movie, Owen, whatever his name is, the blonde-headed guy, they're watching cat videos. And at the end of the movie, all hell breaks loose, the mummies are out, everything's out, and they finally get out of the museum and everything's fine. And then all of a sudden there's these two big lions that become active, and they go to jump on them. And Owen pulls out his little flashlight and wiggles it on the ground, and the cats jump in there. They're trying to kill that light. There's just a lot of crap flying. Here's what I see. I see that Nikki's about to join us. I see that there's a great story between James F. Mooney and James Mooney. I would like to get verified that James F. Mooney actually created the first legislation that made a Native American church, that protected the Rosebud Reservation, as I understand it, and protected peyote, and gave the Native Americans their first stronghold of peace and some sense of who they were. They gave them a place to hang out. Now, that's a great story from James F. Mooney, and I'll bet you James F. Mooney was a weirdo, as any Mooney can be, or any Steve Thomas can be. And if we actually knew James F. Mooney, we'd go, what a nutcase. Well, I'm a nutcase, and I think there are other nutcases. So, but I think the story, James F. Mooney created NAC, and James Mooney is doing what he can to bring it to everybody. Now, I know I was with James before before ONAC. So I know all the controversy, and yet I know that he's got a big vision. And there are a lot of visionaries who don't have a lot of credibility. Their vision is what carries. And I hope that we can grab that vision, the vision of bringing the people, everyone under the tree. I love that, Lynn, when you said bring them under the tree of life. That's what we're about here. So I just don't want that to get lost. And I think that Joey over here is an attorney. He knows when it's just the rattle on the snake and when the snake's going to bite. And I think that he knows a lot of this ground. And I think Sean has been through a lot too. And between these two elders, I think we're going to do fine. And I'm happy to be the scribe and contribute when I can. And I think I'm complete, Lynn. And Sean,
Chime in. Don't forget Sergio.
And don't forget
Sergio
Sergio.
has been involved.
I did not mean to forget you, Sergio. Go ahead, Sean.
I just want you to realize that he's been involved in the legal aspect, the historical aspect, and many other aspects of the foundational things that we've done over the last, Sergio, about 12 years?
Yeah.
Very good.
8 years, I think. Going on.
Yes, I must also congratulate your professionalism and your stick-to-itiveness and your ability to get to the core of the issues. That's highly unusual in groups like this where you have someone that's just sharp and focused. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Appreciate it.
I hope.
Oh.
Well, Lynn.
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that and everybody's contribution. Following last week's comments, is there anybody that has not had a chance to speak to share your thoughts and feelings about the article, of course, that came out, or anything that's followed since? Would love any of your input. I know there are a couple of additional members here that didn't have a chance. I believe maybe even Leah and Kate, if that's something you're interested in. But the floor is, I'll leave that open to your consideration before I make my own comments. Would either of Leah or Kate or anybody else like to be able to share their testimony or message?
Yeah, it was like the feelings around the Harper's Magazine article. Is that what you're asking, Lynn?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of people that were left out of last week's conversation, and I just want to open that to them if they want to share.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. I
Leah
feel complete.
or Kate?
Yeah, I feel complete. So, but thank you for asking. Thank you.
Certainly. And Leah, would you like to, now that you're kind of being folded into this conversation, and I think that it sounds like you have a lot to contribute to this dialogue, would you like to share?
I don't know about that, whether it's a lot, but just another opinion. I respect Harper's Magazine a great deal. I've read it for decades. And first of all, the articles that they select, I think, are provocative and timely. I thought the article was fairly well balanced. I thought it gave a lot of historical background about what's going on with ONAC, how it started, how, Native Americans and white people have gone back and forth with, involvement and whether that makes sense, and talked a little bit about cultural appropriation and how that unfolds. I thought it was pretty balanced though, and I'm really kind of surprised at James' reaction. I'm not sure really what issue he has with that. I thought it could have gone really down a dark path, but it didn't. I thought if anything, if I had read that article and knew nothing about this, I'd probably check out the Sacred Wisdom Circle. I thought it spoke very highly of it. So I'm not really sure what all this negative backwash is about. Next person.
Thank you, Leah. Appreciate that. Well, I'd like to share my point of view as well.
It
My
also looked like Sean had his hand up.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
No,
have you
it's
on my
Okay,
screen,
Lynn, you
Sean.
can go
No,
first or whatever.
no, please, Sean. I'd love to have
Okay.
you contribute. Thank you.
You know, with 30 years of Oklava behind me, almost, I feel like there have been lots and lots of things that have come up through the press or through innuendo or through anything else. And all of it is sound and fury signifying nothing if we hold on to our values and our commitment to serve people. And if we then highlight for the public the service we do. We don't have to, get trumpets and get up on the wall, but I think that it is more effective to do good works and let them be seen than it is to rail against somebody that we think has slighted us. Generally, people may read an article, and I don't, I'm kind of with the thing that didn't feel like the article was full of lies and innuendo. There were some things that I thought were not accurate, but I didn't have a sense of a hatchet job, people trying to tear something down. I thought they were just trying to write an article, and may not have been a great article. There's something that happened here. I don't know if any of you are science fiction buffs, but or fantasy, but there's an author named Brandon Sanderson, who's one of the best-selling authors in the world, and he writes a lot of fantasy and a little bit of science fiction. And a guy from a major, I think it was New York Times, but I can't remember for sure, but he asked him if he could come stay with him for a week and do a background piece on him for this big multinational outlet. And he said, sure, come on in. He had him a dinner at his house. He, let him see his family and meet with them and do a lot of other things with them. And a couple of months later, the article comes out, and there's nothing in there in the article about his work or about what he believes in or what he cares about. It was all about his kids chewing with his mouth open, or using too much salt on their food, or weird Mormon practices, or all these things. And it had nothing to do with Brandon Sanderson the person, and it was very much a hatchet job. And the people in another major organization turned to him and said, what are you going to do about this guy? I mean, this is ridiculous. We know you. You're not like this. And he said, well, the guy's got a job and he's trying to write an article, and I give him, props for making the effort. He was obviously out of his depth here with what, this was supposed to be about, but it's okay. I'm not mad at him. I just go on and do what I do. And the response to his response is the thing that I think we need to be aware of, is that everybody jumped in and said, my gosh, all I had to do was read his response to that article to know everything I need to know about Brandon Sanderson. He is a great person. The author of that article, on the other hand, is kind of an idiot. And that's how it played out.
Nice.
So, I like to just kind of take that as something to maybe emulate a little bit. At the same time, there are times when there is actually libel or something, because those articles do stick. They're in the media. People can look them up anytime. There's still articles clear back when James and Linda were first arrested that are brought up in conversations. So sometimes you do have to challenge non-factual things. But as a general rule, the best revenge is living well. That's all I got on that.
Nice.
Thank you, Sean. Is there anybody else? Maybe has not had a chance. Billy, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say, I really appreciate what Leah has put on the table here. We are coming from a sort of background context place. If you are completely unfamiliar with the whole context of something, how you might view it, it just might pique some curiosity, you know, that's interesting. And so I love that she put that impersonal view in, so that, because it gives us some consideration as we look at this, you know, from a non-personal, how do we handle it and still accomplish our intention place. I loved it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
I would like to add, guys, that
Sergio?
it does seem, it seems very much that, you know, just there's something else under attack right now from this article, and it really just seems like it wants to tell everybody how to behave and how to think, and that you're supposed to get, you know, everybody back in their box, and, you know, respect the Indian by letting him and his culture, you know, wither and die. And it just seems so backhanded racism of everyone back in your box. What are you thinking? Get in your box. How dare you? And it seems like it screams for an answer that's eloquent and just well put in whatever way we respond. As you know, Sean had said, just it has to have an equal response that has something with longevity and just truth, because it screams for the truth to be said of certain mistruths that were said, and a whole other litany of a kind of way it was just, yay, everyone back in your box. Come on, why are you thinking like this? You're not allowed to touch the sacred. The sacred is not for you. It's, you know, touch your sacred into whatever blood or skin type you are. And it's a bad argument. It's a racist argument that is just backhanded and slighted. And that is what my real thoughts are on it.
Thank you, Sergio. Appreciate you all. I'd like to, if I may, share some of my own experience and some of my thoughts about this. I've saved mine kind of for last. I didn't want to influence anyone else's decision. I only want to present my experience, and my direct experience is that, you know, I've been a member of ONAC for 11 years. And, you know, it's interesting to hear a few of you, Billy and Sean and others, that have had many, many years in terms of having, frankly, a front row seat. And Steve, having a front row seat to every part of how this has developed over the years. And, you know, I want to, again, honor the difficulty and the challenges of developing and blazing the path and getting to this stage of things. I respect that, and I want to be able to honor that. However, I think that we can all also, with authenticity, agree that there have been considerable failures of leadership and gross misconduct that has occurred over those years. And that, frankly, unfortunately, this article is just one more thing that has ultimately, I think, created, frankly, a legacy that James wrote for himself, that he has created a story about who he is and what he represents. And unfortunately, it's not in the best kind of light. My personal feeling about the article and what these ultimately come to is that, unfortunately, this has also exposed truth and shed light on parts of the organization that need to be changed and need healing and need growth. Frankly, because of how things have been handled and managed in the past. Again, I'm not even a medicine handler. I am a spiritual warrior, and I have been on this path for 20 years, and I'm here because I believe in this path and process. And I absolutely, because of my background, I've been an herbalist and studied in a clinical setting, everything from all natural plant medicines to entheogens, which is, when I met Linda 11 years ago, that was part of expanding on my knowledge of this sacred path. And one of the things that I want to talk about that I think is of utmost importance to our community and to, frankly, the source, or the essence of the article, that one of the things that I'm most disturbed by is the fact that he invited this person into Sacred Circle to begin with. And the fact that this person was invited, there's a reason why sacred ceremony is sacred. It's because people are sharing their deepest and most vulnerable and wounded space. And to have the integrity of that space to be damaged, the trust and safety, how are we supposed to ensure any of our tribe have that level of safety where they can heal in sacred ceremony? I'm most, that there's a deep disappointment in terms of the fact that that even occurred. I understand that he believed that this was going to have a different outcome, but in all reality, there's a reason why NAC has always kept people out of ceremony, and it's for these reasons. It's to protect the members of those councils, those tribes, so that they can use these tools appropriately to heal their wounded. And we should hold that same level of respect and integrity. And if we're out of alignment with NAC, then we need to get back in alignment with NAC if we intend to be within their charter. So I think that there's an important thing that we need to address there ultimately as a community, and how we're going to protect that space so that, frankly, that ceremony can hold the same level of benefit to all of us and to all of our family and tribe moving forward. The other side of things is I kind of wish Linda was here to be able to communicate some of the story that I've had with James, but what I saw primarily from the article, unfortunately, was not different from the experience that I've had with working with James Mooney and the Moonies. And unfortunately, that has been, again, this is not an isolated incident, and this is actually just revealing a pattern of behavior where the needs of the people have not been considered first, and other motives and intentions have been involved in that process. And what I most am concerned about with the article is that people will point to this as exactly what happens when you give the medicine to the white man.
Yeah.
That's about as much of a kick in the teeth and a spark to reality as we can possibly get in this. And the reality is that she painted a very clear picture that he is exactly and has behaved exactly as the article presents him, including the part where he even decides to make the primary part of his story being that he's an assassin, CIA assassin, and all of these other things that ultimately discredit you and me. It discredits and brings dishonor to this path and this process. And unfortunately, I don't believe that alignment with ONAC is something that in fact, let me be clear. I have a clear, I want to be able to set as clear a path as I can that is going to benefit and heal our community and to unite us. And I don't believe that we can do that with being attached to ONAC in any capacity. And that's my personal feeling about it. I'd be happy to go into further detail when it's appropriate but there were some circumstances that some people here are familiar with where James put myself and others, not just in concerning situations, and there are more and more things that keep getting revealed about, frankly, even potential sexual misconduct and ceremonial misconduct and things that have been revealed in these letters that ultimately are unacceptable and things that we need to ultimately create a new standard for within our community for us to even be able to move forward on any kind of capacity. So in terms of what happened with Linda and myself and the Moonies is that he put myself and many others in danger, and we were run off the mountain at gunpoint by members of ONAC. And there are serious situations that have come up and have been a part of this community that I don't think it will serve us ever again to just allow a blind eye to let this to happen. And again, I respect the path and the difficulty of the journey in getting us to arrive here and now, but the reality is we need to respectfully choose a new path and unite behind that choice. And if we can't, I don't know that there is room for at least my tribe to continue in this. I have some things that I'd like to ultimately propose in terms of how we can unite as a council of tribes in a very democratic and in a very egalitarian way. But I want to be able to present these things first before any of those are presented to the group. And thank you for allowing me to share you know, my points of view on this, I know it's not it's a little different from some other people that you've heard, but I think that these are serious issues that ultimately must be addressed for us to be who we can be moving forward. And with that, I'll say, it looks like we have a couple people that want to comment, or if we can move into those, and I'd love to be able to start talking about how we can talk about the issues that directly impact all of us, and if we can come up with some solutions. Billy, you have something to say? Billy, I see your hand raised, but
You're not you're muted, Billy.
Sorry. I have a question, Lynn, in reference to what you just shared. And given that Linda sits at the head of this organization, my question is this: she has a long relationship with James, and so I too am not. I'm very tenuous about anything to do with ONAC at this point in my experience. And so, I'm not going to go into huge detail, but I just want to, I think we have to get that perspective from Linda. Steve, is there any opening there that you see in separating, really, so that we can all come together in this fully committed and not hesitant about involvement?
Well, I can say, and most of you guys, Sean knows this, I think Lynn knows this, that Linda has been out of alignment with the ONAC. She's been on the outside of ONAC for a while, because they gave her a choice to do medicine with Gent or do medicine with ONAC. And she said, I'm doing medicine with Gent, and continued her wisdom circles and done quite successfully, even though she's either been, her branch has been suspended or something, not in good standing. And in spite of that, James keeps coming back to Linda, and Linda Mooney keeps coming back to Linda. So there are these political issues that are going on. I want to say this very tenderly. Somehow there's a part of me that says, every minute we talk about the issues, we're missing the point. The point is our code of conduct and our code of ethics and implementation. That I love what I've heard everybody say about moving ahead and building the tree, building the family together. And so, yes, I think we need to handle the issues. Yes, I think every person here needs to be clear. But Linda's done just fine being on the outside of James Mooney in the past, and she'll do what she does. And I know that she loves you guys. She called you all together. So, that's my 2 cents on that topic. I have more to say, but I just want to address what you're asking there, Billy. Did that give you some information? Sean knows everything that I know for sure. Sean knows it all. And probably Sergio does. So,
one comment. Oh, I apologize, Steve. I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, that's okay. I've stayed on the outside of it, and I just come in, and I'm like a surfer. When the wave is going good, I catch the wave. When it sucks, I just stand back and wait for the soup to get done and for the next set to roll in, right? And again, I'm going to come back to James has an amazing vision. If we could unite NAC by being examples of love, that's what we need to do. And we don't need ONAC to do that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And await other input, from those of you more knowledgeable and all of that. But I want to be part of something that I can give my whole commitment to.
Okay. I have a question. Is James Mooney and ONAC a package deal? Like, just because we're not affiliating with ONAC, does that mean that we're still dealing with James?
Okay, well, I have something I could say on that. Even when Linda has been on the outside of James and been, I don't know if she's been I don't know what you call it, disfellowshipped, or if she's been suspended or what. Even with that, James keeps rolling back in every 3 or 4 months and has some new great idea that he wants to share with Linda Stone. So, I think James has his problems, and he has his vision, and he has ONAC. and he's married to Linda Mooney. And I think James is like a square with vertexes here and there. Not like a tetrahedron, because a tetrahedron is stable. A square will collapse, and that I see that happening a lot.
I think moving forward, what we're here to determine as a council, as a united council of tribes, is, are we in alignment? And ultimately, are we, everybody talks about James Mooney vision, but ultimately, does he have the same vision that we have? And I'm here to say personally, I don't see that anymore. I came into this, and I, like many of you, actually followed in with Linda Stone, and I've had always the utmost integrity and love and respect for the experience and the healing that I've experienced working with Linda. But we need to have some real consideration in terms of what that ultimately that alignment looks like and what it needs to look for us to move forward. I'd like to open the floor to anybody that has additional comments, maybe specific questions or comments that we can address as a group. Following up everybody's. Is anybody out there?
I'll go.
Nicole?
For me, I have to proceed kind of carefully because what the affiliations that I make can determine like my success in a lot of areas in life, because people like Joseph Sapp here, I met him, and one of the first things he did was a little background check on me, and he's like, oh, you've done this and this project and you've owned this business, and and it's not really hard to do that. And so for me, I just have for some people it's just about like moving on and focusing on what we're here to do, which is true, but I can focus on what I'm here to do anywhere. For me, the political affiliations is really an important thing to consider, and also like the stability of what we're doing here, because I've worked with nonprofits, and it's really important to have like some cohesiveness in the leadership. And when people start to like see what's going on in your politics and stuff, and somebody sounds crazy and they're, like, we don't know who's giving orders and things like that, it can just kind of get to the morale of the group. And oftentimes it just, it could be a nightmare. And I know that, the elders in this group have been used to this, and this is kind of their background. And I understand that. I only have my perception with nonprofits, but that's just kind of where I'm coming from with that incomplete.
Thank you, Nicole.
Did Christina have her hand up earlier?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Christina, if you have something.
I did. I'm just standing here in love and support for all of you. It is a difficult time, and I feel like we're kind of stuck in it. We had some bad situations go on, but it's nothing more than an opportunity for healing. Many times in my life, I love my sister. I mean, the only person that I have a personal relationship with on this call is Melinda, because I know her well. And although maybe I could disagree with something with my sister, but I still love her and support her with whatever she's going to do. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to create that in the world. If it doesn't exist, that's kind of our job. That's what we're here to do. We're here to create. We're not here to react. We're here to create. What's happened has happened. We have to go forward.
One thing that I'd like to add in is I think that one thing that's interesting that many people have brought up is also the uniqueness of the timing of this happening. And I don't believe that anybody in our community really believes in accidents, and that things are always led by spirit and purpose. And one of the things, of course, that's obvious on the surface is that we've already been working towards this goal of developing an organization that is unified and creating a community that is strong, that serves higher purpose, and that ultimately serves the needs of the community that we love and that we cherish, and the people that we're trying to help. And I hope that we can align ourselves to that mission and that vision ultimately in a way that also provides for a very different world that we live in. We're in a very modern, digitized world, and we're all separated around the globe. We're global citizens of this unique time and space and place. And I hope that we can unite around worthwhile causes, as opposed to trying to fix the old. I think, as they say, that the secret to change is to focus all of your energy on building the new instead of fighting the old. And as opposed to trying to fix the old, sometimes it's better to build something that makes the old model obsolete. And I think that we're fully capable within this community of achieving that. I believe in the people that are here and the heart and the intention that is a part of this community. Thank you, Nicole. That being said, over the past week, has anybody had any thoughts, anything in particular that you'd like to bring before the community in terms of a possible path forward or a plan or anything that can be ultimately addressed in terms of how we move forward?
I'd love to share.
Please. Is that Mel?
Yeah. So honestly, like my energy, like I do feel a lot better about this. I feel like moving forward, we just need to know what are the steps. If whatever James, if he was a part of ONAC, and it's like, what do we need to do to create an organization that's not tied with his name or them at all? A lot of his character is coming out with this, and this is someone that I would not want to do business with or work with. Just the fact that this article the whole thing was equal. The point of it was that white people shouldn't serve peyote medicine. And the fact that he is pointing out stuff against Linda Stone or Gent, specifically Gent, thinking he had anything to do with it, this hurts Gent too. Why would Gent want an article saying that he should not serve peyote medicine when that's what he's doing? So this is my opinion, if James Mooney was truly a medicine man coming from heart and love space, wanting to make a difference, he wouldn't come and separate, a mom with her son. And he's just not coming he comes as attacking and just not as a medicine man would. Like, it's, everyone else is just coming from love of like, hey, like Christina, I love her thing. It's just a thing. And I wouldn't want to put any energy into like fighting this or trying to do a lawsuit, which sounds like the energy that James wants to do. That's going energy in the past. I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's a waste of my energy. That's stressful. I just want to put energy into showing love, taking what we can out of the article and learning, hey, there's a point to that of like, yeah, white people have screwed a lot of people over before and the natives. And so I get her point with that. And also, I don't think it was fair how she did it. Also, she wrote the article deceptive. She lied to a lot of us, and we opened up our home to her. And it was a little more personal with me because she was here. We had a lot of conversations. Me and my husband put hours into work with this. Like, there's just a lot to it. But I wouldn't want to come with hate. It's just, moving forward. So I think it's figuring out how we create our own branch, what that means, what that looks like. So we're safe, so we're protected, which I think that's the only reason we're really connected with ONAC anyways, right? Is just because it's protecting us. So man, if we can be disconnected from these other energies and we know what to do to create our own branch where we can serve medicine and no one gets in trouble for it, and we can keep doing our healing without us attacking each other. The fact that he didn't have a real conversation with Linda and couldn't read into that article and see that it was kind of hurtful for everyone shows me that that's not our true medicine man. He comes from ego and pride is my energy from not meeting him. And anyways, so if anyone knows how to create a new thing and be safe with it and have medicine, then how do we do that? It's my thoughts.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to add one part to that real quickly, Stephen, if I may. One thing that I think is of the utmost importance to me moving forward is that we're protecting those who are the most vulnerable in our community, which is absolutely who is at the core of, frankly, many of these issues. And what is an absolute boundary for me, and what I'm not willing to cross, is to allow situations or people to continue to expose our most vulnerable. And I'm talking about our children and the people that are in healing are exceptionally vulnerable and need to be protected and guided through this process and need to be responsibly a part of how we're ultimately coming together as a tribe to protect them first. So in terms of how we organize this, there are a number of things that I'd like to bring to the table that frankly we've already been in development of and conversation of, that we have a short path to being able to at least first establish a unified community conversation so that we can address the immediacy of the need for a response. That being said, Stephen, you had something?
Well, yeah, I think it's kind of, look, so let's say we organize to an organization and we have standards. And either ONAC meets those standards or they don't. Or my branch meets those standards or they don't. But we have organized. Now, in order to organize, whether it's whatever entity is decided, and Lynn, you've got a good ideas about it. Joey, you have good ideas. Sergio, you've got ideas. Nicole, everybody's talked about different ideas. Nikki, her experience on how to put this all together. When we go to organize, whatever function we call it, we got to have a code of ethics and we have to have a code of conduct that works. Where we actually are declaring what we're about. I love the fact, Lynn, that this is about the most vulnerable, about protecting those who are most vulnerable. But I will also tell you from the articles that are out there and from the chaos that's going on in the world today, where, for example, cannabis is legalized in many states and still a class 1 drug with the feds. I mean, it is total chaos. And we can't be fighting all those dragons. I think we need to create a giant tree of love, and we need to have a code of ethics, and we need to have a code of conduct that says anybody who can ascribe to this can sit under this tree. And I think that's where we need to go to be organized. Let's get this code of conduct done. Let's get the code of ethics done. Linda wanted those done from grassroots, not to be top down said the way it would be. I'm not sure that Joey has something to say about that, and some of you others. Nikki, maybe you have something to say about that. I'm complete.
Well, Nicole, anyway, let me go ahead and say this. I found a best practices manual for what's called the entheogenic churches, and stuff like that. And pretty exciting article. And this best practices, which I forwarded it to Steve, and I think was sharing it amongst the wiki group. It's really something to look at, because they almost have ready-made codes of ethics and guidelines that will be easier to modify. Again, we want to follow the best practices because we not only want to help people, but ultimately we want to stay out of trouble. I used to get in trouble all the time from friends in this universe because I want to go fix people before I have myself fixed. You know, and you just can't do that. It's not sustainable over time. So the best practices manual takes into account all legal considerations, all ethical considerations, moral considerations. It gives you literally some things to just follow through to give you that veneer of protection. I think that anything that's life-giving is going to grow. It's very organic. It's the difference between power and force. Power just exists and affects things by its existence, but force will masquerade as power. And so let's, use the power of those that have went before us that are trying to maintain an ethical and integrous organization, because we're not the first group of people that have had this issue on this issue, actually. And so there are successful people out there. I have no problems, as long as it's not one of my books that I've published and I've said I got the copyright on. If it's like a legal brief or if it's like a template for business or something, I will plagiarize like a madman, because we use what works. It's why we don't constantly reinvent the wheel. But that's all I have on that one.
Joey.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were done. So I was going to ask you, who was the author of that book? Was it George Lake by chance?
I don't know. It was from a website, the Religious Freedom Act, something. I can try to forward you a copy of it.
Well, I'm affiliated with an attorney that has actually written 2 books on the legal standing of entheogenic plants on the federal and state levels. So we could definitely have that as a resource as well. In fact, I helped kind of edit one of them.
Nicole, I was going to send that article or that manual that Joey talked about to everybody, but I could send it to you first and you could give a good reaction as to whether you want, if you know some collateral materials that would support it. Okay. And I want to say this, people talk about protection, and I think ONAC has sold a bill of protection to say, be a member of ONAC because you can get protection. The protection is all local. It's all on how each person conducts their affairs. It's all on your personal code of ethics. It's all on if you get a DA in your district with a budget who has an axe to grind, you're going to be in deep doo-doo no matter what thing you want to call yourself for protection. So locally, we need to see our communities. We need to meet those needs of those communities. We need each of us need to take a profile that's appropriate for our local environment. I think that goes along with what Lynn, you've been saying. I'm going to send that manual right now, Nicole.
I think that that's really ultimately what we're trying to arrive at here, is that there are all of these key issues that ultimately that affect all of us here in this community, right? And we have a desire to still be able to work together, to have the protection that we need to be able to serve and to ultimately to live in the way that we see according to our faith and our beliefs, and also to be able to have many of these issues addressed that impact everybody, but still maintain our autonomy as individuals and tribes that are leading our own localized communities. Part of the reality is that we have a very decentralized council, and we need a space where everybody can exist in we'll say a safe way of being able to level that playing field. So I know we've talked about a number of different items, but I'd like to even propose what we've already been discussing amongst groups, which is actually to propose a new tribal council that we actually organize as a distributed, decentralized community council. And we've been calling that a united council of the tribes, or even an international council of tribes. And the reason why we're proposing this is that we want to be ultimately inclusive of all tribes, and realize that, frankly, although yes, we are white, we're not trying to hide that fact, but that we all have tribal history, and that community is at the very root of that tribal connection, and tribe is family, and we're here as tribes. So the proposed is that I'm proposing, and I'm open to finding the best path of achieving this, but I want to also move things progressively forward, is that this potential council of tribes essentially would mean that everybody would operate as an independent tribe in a council of tribes that is ultimately, I believe everybody wants this as well, under the jurisdiction or under the membership of NAC. And if those things are all true and in alignment, then I'd like to be able to design that organization in a way that we can all continue ultimately to define what our code of conduct and ethics and everything is, but we need that starting foundation of community to be able to establish that. As Joey brought up, one of the things that we can really focus on is that we have shortcuts to be able to do this relatively quickly. There are boilerplate documents that are already established for organizations like this, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We already know what NAC stands for and their code of conduct and ethics, and we can start there and build fresh. But I think that this also needs to be something where we're creating a clear separation between where we have been and where we're going.
Okay,
Does
so
anybody have any thoughts about that?
Is there a motion? I mean, could you formalize a motion, and then we'll look for a second for the motion?
Okay, thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. My formal motion is that we organize an international council of tribes, essentially a decentralized autonomous organization is what it's called, a DAO, which allows everybody membership amongst that same charter of organization and faith and belief, in a capacity that we can ultimately address and solve these problems as a community.
Okay, so I've got an international organization of tribes. Each of us have
Let's just call it our
sovereignty.
council of tribe.
Right, and each tribe, each one of us represent a tribe which has its own sovereignty, that works in its own jurisdiction, and it's out for its own protection. And all we're doing is meeting together to have conversation about creating shade under the tree.
I wouldn't say that it's only that we're meeting together. That part of what we're establishing here is that overarching community council will provide the legal protection and all other community protections that impact all of us on this same path. All of us that are in alignment with NAC and that charter ultimately, which is what we all believed we were doing when we were under ONAC. Is that accurate, Joey?
Yeah.
In terms of legalese?
Yeah, actually, one of the things that might be a good way to look at it is Universal Unitarian churches, how they organize, because I know that their individual church units are independent and they have an overarching organization. And the Universal Unitarian Church actually really fits what we're doing a lot better. You know what I'm saying? Because you just have to look up and see what Universal Unitarians are all about. And then, and another thing is the way that the Southern Baptist Convention does their setup, where you subscribe to an overarching set of ethics, morals, conditions, sort of like an almost franchise, but it still gives you a chance to customize it at your level. But certain things would be, certain community service things and other stuff like that would you could be built in. But yeah, to the extent that that's what we're looking at, I would second the motion. But again, the templates are out there so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Because I noticed there's probably some detail-oriented OCD people, the best people in the world. But there's, your highest and best use is not reinventing the wheel, and just universal Unitarian structure is set up. Nicole's done templates for nonprofits and churches. Just get something down. There's a reason why boilerplate is boilerplate. It works all the time.
Yeah. Who wants to be on that committee? I think what we need to do is have somebody who knows this idea, like Joey and maybe Nicole, who's now Nikki is still here. You guys get in and let's have a formal motion that we can all get behind. I will tell you that I resist any wording about providing protection for anybody.
Yeah, no, none of that.
We can't protect
Well,
anybody.
it's not so much providing protection as it is creating a charter that is acceptable to the institution, the systems within which we are all held accountable to.
Right.
And that we're ultimately holding ourselves to a much higher standard of ethics, and that our internal self-regulation gives us the ability to be able to even manage, cultivation and distribution of medicines, as well as and addressing all of the needs of the community. It's really to ultimately create a space where we're all able to show up as equals and to be able to care about and address the needs of the people that we're caring for and that we're serving.
Yeah, I like that idea. And I think if we had some wording, one step at a time is good for me. But if we had wording we could all agree to, well, let's do it. But don't you think we need a formal motion?
Well, in terms of that, just so you know, so the conversation, why this is coming up with Joey and Nicole and others, is that we've actually already advanced that conversation in other committees. And I think that we're actually quite a bit far down that conversation that we can actually present, if not today, something first part of next week that is specific to that motion, and organizing and making a vote on that new organization.
I'd love to see the words.
Joey and Nicole, do you think we can achieve that?
And
Like
Nick,
pull together the boilerplate and the other documents to be able to present we'll say the legal structure of the new organization that we can potentially vote on, or be presented so we can evaluate and vote on.
I don't think Nicole's here, but
yeah, she left the call.
yeah, she had to leave the call. It's kind of some of the things that, it's what I do, and it's what I got a team that I help pay for to do. And so, but I can't guarantee, what I'm saying? We're not, I don't write Pulitzers. I write stuff that's fast and dirty and works. And so, but yeah, we could probably pull something together.
Who wants to be on that committee? Who wants to be on that? If, let's say Joy's going to rush some stuff together. Lynn, you certainly want some feedback on that.
Yeah.
So who else is going to be involved in that? Who else wants to be?
I think Nicole has quite a bit of experience, and Billy also has some experience in gathering those or organizing those in terms of even 501c3s. The reason why I'm only, for example, pushing for movement forward on this is really for the immediacy, the urgency of what's currently affecting all of us with these articles and everything else going on. I think we all want some peace of mind in terms of how we progress. And I think that we need to establish a clear line in the sand where we all can stand behind and that we all agree is a good place to start.
And for that, Billy, do you have something? Go for it. You have to unmute. There you go.
Thought I was. What I'm hearing, Lynn, is that what we want to possibly make a motion about is that we agree to come together as a unified organization based on our agreement of and buy-in to the code of ethics and conduct that gets presented, that we then could agree that we would then move forward as council once everyone has had that presentation of
I think,
the
Billy,
document.
I think Lynn is proposing, let's have something where we have a declaration of independence or a declaration of community, regardless of any code of ethics. If we wait for a code of ethics, it'll take 2 weeks. We can have a declaration of unity fairly quickly by next week.
So
For all
we
intents and purposes. Oh, go ahead, Billy. I didn't.
So,
Go ahead,
so
please.
the proposal that you're making, the thing that you are, the motion you are making is to join us as a council dedicated to,
In an official capacity,
in the
as
official capacity,
yeah,
that we are
at-
organizing
separate,
ourselves today.
yeah, separate from ONAC,
Okay,
completely separate from ONAC. And I mean, in all reality, what I'm proposing here is already what James has outlined. He's already put a line in the sand for Linda. And, you know, in terms of where things go from here, part of what we're just choosing our path too, and making that determination based on the integrity of the people that are at the table and our desire and ability as a community to come together and build something better. And part of that means a separation from what we have been so that we can become what we can be.
Yeah.
okay.
Is that more clear?
We've always been separate. I mean, if Sean were here, he would say that when James presented the idea of this thing to Linda, she was supposed to be the president of it and run it. So everything you're saying is in alignment with what James's original vision was. And let's come up with that statement. So I think that, but we need words, Lynn. I think
That's
we're
fine.
all in consensus. We need some words that we can all raise our hand and say, yeah, I agree.
I think that's a fair request, and I thank you for addressing it like that. With the council with the community that we have, we can present that by next week. I don't have any doubt in my mind that we can achieve that. The statement is just, I think it needs some refinement in terms of being able to present that. That being said, let's go ahead and table that for now with the assumption that we do want to be able to move in that direction. Can I get an affirmative from everybody here that that's in their belief, or are there any others that have a counter?
Yeah, let's have a motion that we get a committee to come up with a final declaration of community declaration.
Yeah, like, are we all in agreement that that's a proper course of action?
Are we all in agreement? Raise your hand.
Can I get an aye or nay from everybody?
Aye. Anybody opposed to it? Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Wait, are you eyeing or are you opposing?
I'm
You're
eyeing. I'm an
Okay,
eye.
This is,
all right,
No,
good.
this is
We have all the
Christina.
ayes.
I'm eyeing.
Good. Is anybody
Okay.
opposed?
I think that's unanimous, Steve.
I think so too. So that's our resolution. So you're going to get together with Joey and whoever else wants to. If you do not have Joey's or Lynn's email or phone number, contact me. I'll get it to you. You're okay with having anybody give input, right, Lynn and Joey?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
All right.
but please text before you call because
Yeah.
I like to make sure I keep. It's a long story, but it makes it better if you text before you call. It'll get answered faster.
That's my rule.
So setting that in terms of business, not setting it completely aside, but just putting it to the side a little bit so that we can continue additional things I think that we can address in this meeting are actually a number of additional developments. So we're talking about, are we truly in alignment with path? And I think that that's part of what we need some clarity and transparency about, is where we're going and what we're trying to achieve in the path that me and my tribes are going. And I'll preface that by saying I'm leaving room for people to choose whatever the path they think is ultimately going to serve them and their communities the best. And if that's in alignment with, you feel that that's in alignment with James Mooney, I please know that I'm not here to try to take over, and I'm not seeking any kind of leadership here. I just want what's best for all of us, and so that we can have continuity and community moving forward. I believe in this vision. So one of the other things that I'd like to bring up is so that we can have even Nikki and others communicate on, is that one of the things that we're working on and we have been developing already are some of the additional support mechanisms, organization and businesses that ultimately we believe that we can provide as a potential solution to serve very specific problems that are occurring in the community as of today, and addressing the fundamental needs of just bare necessities. And we're talking about food, clothing, and money and resources, the things that ultimately we know we all need for this organization to stay a healthy organization. And with that being said, because Nikki has been such an instrumental part of pulling this project together, and we've had many meetings on this, I'd like to have her speak to what that project is. And basically the context is that this is actually an extension of, again, just a project that a business of mine, that I saw that there was an unmet need in the community and something that we could present to this organization, to this group, that could serve all of us in a very positive way. And with that, I'd love to be able to open that up to Nikki. Is that okay, Nikki?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Can
And
I interrupt 1 second? It's Christina. I apologize.
ahead.
Linda's trying to wrap up her call. She asked if you're able to, if you could stay on the call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
She's welcome to join us too.
Yeah, that's what she's trying to do.
Oh.
We'll stay on as long as we can. Go for it, Nikki.
Okay, apologies for my distraction. I didn't hear everybody's input, so I would really love to listen to the recording and then weigh in on what's going on, because I do have loyalty to ONAC too. They actually saved me in our raids and in our legal situation. So I didn't want to bring that up, not in the context of what everybody else did, but I just wanted you to let you know that they're the reason I'm here. So in regards to the solution and moving forward, which I totally agree with, I really want to get through this media cycle and the accusations and settle into, like you say, the code of ethics and how we move forward as a community that is all from the same source, right? So there's unconditional love in the end, beyond some of these issues that are emotionally charged. But in terms of the community surplus exchange, we've been looking at the model to be something of the new wave of this distributed autonomous organization that Lynn was referring to, where each of the leaders have autonomy in what they're doing and what their faith is and what their ceremonial practice is and what their, viability is moving forward within their own rituals. I totally agree with that. And it is very experimental. So Joey, I appreciate that. Yes, we leverage assets by having templates and those sorts of things, but we also might need to open up and say, maybe we need to experiment with a different model of not the hierarchy of who's in charge and who's not, but maybe the community-led voting system where we each get points for the amount of effort that we're putting forth toward these community charities, et cetera. And so one example is in the surplus industry, which is very viable, very profitable, and something that we can spin off and become a community-led organization for the good of the people, is to make not only businesses, but individuals recession-proof. And so there's a really good model where we can take it baby steps, one step at a time, and come in and just provide training. We provide training either online or in person for people to repurpose the way that they live, because they're going to start to lose their jobs and they're going to start to lose their businesses. And in the excess industry, you can repurpose these liquidations or these bankruptcies that come about. And there's donations in the kind of organization that we're going to be, where there's a tax write-off and there's, lowering the cost on the books. And so it's less of the effect of just totally being wiped out by a recession. And so with this and with these kinds of tools, if we could teach people to come in and either be a part of the community by coming in and being an intern while they learn, or repurposing some of this stock because they have a skill for rebuilding or fixing, tinkering with things like equipment. Those are all things that we can provide for the individual members as well as for local businesses, and make that turn out to be walking in right way. For the good of all. And so what my idea is that we start with the trainings and we start getting people rallying around, okay, we can turn this business into something that can be profitable to the degree that we're giving back to the community like a nonprofit, but also giving to people in such a way that they're not only making a fair wage, but they're also getting the perks of having some of the excess go right into their community, like a church or a school, or even their homes, clothing, food, furniture, equipment, even vehicles. This is all a possibility. And so we're building the business model where we have, connections to clients and contracts and the agreements to be able to repurpose some of this stuff. But we also need the human side of it. And we'll need you to come in and say, what's your skill set and what can you contribute and how can you make that connection? And how do we compensate you for that? Because it can be any number of ways. So a percentage, paycheck, equity. There are all kinds of ways that we can spin this. And so I'd just like to propose that there's something in the mix that can be very viable and sort of a win-win-win, which is not the main hierarchy of running a business in these days. And so this is our way of saying, like Buckminster Fuller would say, don't try to fix a broken system, find something that works better. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here.
Can I interrupt here and thank you, Nikki? That was
Yeah.
wonderful. So
Yeah.
I was on the matriarch call. It had no reflection on James's letter. James's letter is the known James. The women were beautiful. Nobody talked about Xing me if I didn't leave my son behind. They actually called for healing between Gent and James. It was an amazing meeting. Joe's, when I can, I want to call you. I need legal advice on how to stop Sierra. I didn't realize this was just part of a book. I want to rescind any permission I've given her to write anything. And how do we go about doing that? And it sounds like the matriarchs are going to handle James. And it was just a beautiful meeting. And they're writing a very short letter to the editor, just stating who we are. And they want to make it less than 3 paragraphs. Because 2 of those women know me personally, they could vouch for what I would say and the other half of the sentence. And I committed to talking to Linda with Gent on Sunday or Monday, one of the 2. And so it's nothing that I have in this long letter from James. And I wanted to make sure we were very clear on that before this meeting was over.
Appreciate that.
Nicole actually could probably help you get out. Well, yeah, Nicole could probably help you out and get out a quick strategy and a good outline, because I don't know that my calendar is kind of full with some other stuff I've got across the country for the rest of this week. But I mean, I'll be glad to make time with you, but I think Nicole would be the most productive one initially.
Okay, and I won't be off the hill till Sunday. And
Okay.
I've really got to go and get back up there. I have a little over an hour to get back up on the hill.
Okay.
But I felt it was really important to be on that call. And I'm so glad I can come with positive news.
Okay, that's great.
So
Love to
Lynn,
hear it.
Right.
in a nutshell, Linda, we've agreed that Lynn is going to work together with Nikki and Nicole and whoever else wants to come up with some kind of a governing statement, a declaration of our community and our love and our commitment to common unity. And so we're going to come up with some kind of declaration, and then possibly some institutional structuring underneath that. But we want a declaration of love as what we want.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, and one other thing, Sergio, they talked about how upset you are, and I'm sorry, you're muted, Sergio.
Sergio, you're on mute.
Sergio, we can't hear you.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, to me, I really felt that the peyote is under attack. And all of this is just one other way to get the conversation off of what the truth is. And anybody that is white can touch the sacred just as much as anybody else. And this is an attack on peyote. This is an attack on the blue deer and grandfather. And that's what pisses me off so bad. That everything else is side note, and yeah, everyone go to air your dirty laundry on, this is not the message. This is not the meaning. And it does. It pissed me off, especially when I heard the podcast, because it was Harper Magazine having this interviewer join in on it. And it was like, wait, this is ping pong of you know, them rolling their eyes at, oh, you know, everybody get back in your box and, you know, pray to your God and never develop. Yeah, it's just, but that's, I'm so glad that there's positive out of that. And, and I know that there's going to be positive out of this, and there's a reason and a purpose for it. You know,
Yes,
would
and
not have been put in front of us. Sorry.
we get to take this and create beautiful, whether it's on Wikipedia or where we do it, whether it's creating a web page with my story that I always wanted somebody else to tell. I don't know, but Joseph and I will talk and we will take the necessary steps to clean this up.
Thank you, Linda. I think moving forward, I think we all want to build the new and build what's going to heal all of this opportunity for us to move forward. And just kind of circle back to Nikki's statements. We definitely want to be able to create systems and processes in place within our community that can ultimately address the underlying fundamental needs of the community, which some of them are immediate in terms of even financial and operational development of this organization. And there are a few ways that a few paths that we can take to be able to achieve that. And so I invite you to consider these as we move forward. And the only reason why these are being brought forward in the timeliness that they are is just frankly because of the urgency of this article and everything else that has come forward. That some decisive direction needs to be made as an organization to ultimately determine if we can stay in alignment. And I think that some of us are of a feeling that may not be possible with ONAC. And recognition of that may just mean a respectful decision to part ways and to build what's new and next for us with a clean slate. And instead of trying to fight the old, we build the new together. That being said, we're kind of in a time frame for final comments, questions, concerns, things that we can bring up, anything that needs to be addressed by this next coming meeting. Anything that's critical, I'd love to have anybody bring up items for consideration.
Any items for consideration? We want to have final closing takeaways. I think it's very important that everybody gets to express themselves. So let's do that. Lynn, what's your takeaway today? I think you just
Since I've been speaking quite a bit, if you want to start with everybody else first, if that's all right.
Well, you can pass it on to somebody if you like.
Hey, Billy, would you like to jump in?
Yeah,
Sure.
how do you feel, Billy, and what's your takeaway? Let's, because it's 1 minute to
So I feel a sense of I think that we've been infused with energy as a council, even just in a soul to soul kind of conversation. People, thank you for being authentic, sharing exactly what's there for you. I am excited about defining the wording and cohesive. I'm also excited. Nikki shared, Lynn, and would like further conversation with you, if that works. I see what you're saying, and I think no viability here, potential. I feel great, and I'll pass. Linda?
Thank you. I need to get on the road. I'm thankful for the matriarchs, and I am just thankful. I am thankful that you guys did not let this throw you off and you went forward. So just deep gratitude. And I'm going to sign off now.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
So she didn't pass it on to anybody. Kate, have you said your
I
takeaway?
also need to go. I'm at an event, but thank you so much. I do want to hear the recording so I can get everybody's feedback, but we've definitely got some ideas in the works and it's all about love. So hopefully that's the thing that carries us forward.
Cool. Anybody
Talk
else have?
soon. Thank you.
Oh.
Okay, Sergio?
Yeah, you know, I just wanted to say about common purpose, and I think we all do have common purpose here, and peyote has touched all of us and probably healed a lot, and that is the main calling and who needs to be protected in this article to me. James and everything else, he's a big boy, and he always is taking care of himself, and he will. But there's a theme to the thing that is closing down of the mind. But everybody just that is it really. I woke up this morning pissed off. I'm like not pissed off, but I was like, ah! I read it again. And I'm like, God dang it, this is wrong. And so telling people how to think, and or giving them the easy route to bad thinking, and with that, I think that if this is broken off into a different kind of group, then earth-based religions, there's lots of them, and they're all better united in common cause and purpose. If this is separate from ONAC, it's we do have the same purposes, same cause. There's internal strife between members, and maybe that is cause for breaking away. But I look forward to hearing the whole thing of how it's scripted out, and I also am working with Joey and with Steve on the Wikipedia pages, so as to what I see in there that is completely false and discrediting and outright lies, and then where the person interviewing her had come back, and it was just I want to set straight there are certain things that are not true, and that's my purpose with the Wikipedia pages. The Utah versus Mooney, there's lies in that, and how does that play out? There's an Easter egg hunt of laws that can take you towards protection, and most people don't know. This Wikipedia page should be able to say it went from here to here to here, Mooney, Boyle, Esperetto, and be a good way. And once this is up, Harper will probably attack it and say, no, this is, a mistruth, and it'll go back and forth. But I think that it's a way of bringing that knowledge and protection to other people, which is the goal of the Blue Deer, of Grandfather Peyote, is to unite everybody so that the teepee door is open to all races, all humanity, and we all die, we all live, and we're all going to ascend. But do we do it, closed or open? And it's Blue Deer's teaching is that to me. So with that, I think we all have a common purpose in here. Thank you. Love all of you.
Thank you.
And I'm really happy that Linda came on.
Oh. So do you want to pass it on to somebody?
Yes, I'll pass it on to Mel.
Yeah, I just think this was all good information, kind of laying everything out on the table. And yeah, no, I think this is great to keep following what we're doing and making sure that everything is in alignment. What this has done for me as I hold these ceremonies in my home at my teepee, to be very, very careful who comes into ceremony. I've learned that from a couple of these last ceremonies that we've had. So for me as the space holder, I'm going to try really hard to really pre-interview people ahead of time, and knowing that there's always going to be this controversy out there. There's always going to be people that are not ready for medicine. And so I've just got to try hard to weed people out and make sure that they're begging for this medicine. If they're just looky-loos, or they're here just to have an experiment and see it, or if they're going to just sit in the teepee and not take medicine, not okay. So I'm going to make it basically where people are begging to take the medicine. And so anyways, it's just a lot to learn from all of it. And things are popping off perfectly as they should. I don't want to be with anyone where it feels like walking on eggshells, which it feels like that's what it's been with Linda Stone and James Mooney. And so it does feel good to, I don't know, it seems like that's been weird energy all along. And I guess we'll see what Linda wants to do with it. But anyway, this group looks awesome. I appreciate being a part of it. I'm done.
Okay.
Billy, I'll pass
Thanks,
it to
Mel.
Billy. Or Kate. Actually, Kate's been there. Kate.
Thank you, Billy.
Thanks. Wow. Yeah, this has been a beautiful call. It's always amazing how quickly 90 minutes can go by. And so, my takeaway really is focusing for us to be able to focus on going forward, right? I love that we all, to hear everybody shares. I've learned so much since the get-go of this because I feel like I'm kind of the infant in the group. I'm learning a lot. And so really my takeaway is, yeah, focus on what we want. And it truly is like love, light, and for everybody to be able to have the experience, a beautiful experience with sacred medicine, because it truly is a huge lifesaver. I've had my own experiences, and I don't know where I would be without it. So it shouldn't be, based on anything other than those that are living, they should be able to have a choice when, and that they're really, really ready. Sorry. And so I am looking forward to seeing how this unfolds and, to being supportive in a way that, others can learn from me as well. And so with that, I'm complete. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Kate.
I think that's everybody. Lynn,
Steve,
you may
you want
want
to
to
go?
have last words.
Do you want to go first, Steve?
Either one is fine. I'm happy to share. Can
Okay.
you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Right, look, what I love is the heart of everyone here, and I have just two things to say, I think, maybe three. Number one is, Buckminster Fuller said this: don't criticize the existing model, create one that works, and everybody will come to it. That's what we get to do. We get to create something that works. I love this idea. I fell in love with the idea of a declaration of love and common unity. And after that declaration is something we can all subscribe to. And then any kind of organizational thing that we want to do so that everybody comes in as sovereign entities responsible for their own protection, where we provide wisdom and we provide counsel, we provide experience. But we cannot delude anybody to think that anything outside of themselves will give them protection. My experience on this planet is between me and Creator. And then I have fun with you guys too, and James, I don't want to get lost. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think James's idea, to me, it's still resounding. We may dump it. We may dump it in the long run. But James F. Mooney, for as far as I understand, created the first NAC. And it's so cool that James's vision is to bring this to everybody. Now, I don't like all the strings that James Mooney has attached, but we can take this in love and build something wonderful. And my final thing is this: there is no issue that we can discuss that's more important than how each person on this call feels and what their intention is and what their takeaway is. And when I let an agenda discount and a member of somebody sitting on this council, I disservice the entire council and I disservice the agenda. No, there is no agenda item that's more important than how you feel and how I feel and what your takeaway is and what my takeaway is. That's what brings us together in common unity, and no issue should distract us from that. That's my point of view on that particular point. So I think I've said everything on my little list here. This is an opportunity for healing. Christina said that. That's what I want to see happen here. I don't want the vision to go. I love each of your hearts and what you're bringing to this discussion. And Lynn, if you have a final statement.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. And thank you for your words always and your guidance. So, I, like many of you, I'm extremely grateful for this organization, for this group and this council. I have nothing but gratitude, and I want to bring forward even a plan moving forward in love and with the intentions that we desire of why we all are here to begin with, and why we showed up and why we continue to show up. It's because we love and believe in this, and we know that the impact that we can make in a positive way. My biggest desire and my takeaway is that, what our mandate as an organization is to gather, heal, and reunite the tribes. And I'm not talking about just the Native American tribes. We are a tribal family of a global citizen organization that all needs to be recognized at that tribal circle. And that my skin color has nothing to do with my heart. And my ability to serve God and serve purpose and to walk the right road is in my actions, and that my words only have power if my actions give them might. And that's really what it's up to for all of us in terms of how we decide to move forward, is that we're saying and doing things that we're walking the walk. That if we're going to be leaders in this capacity, that we're able to not just be a guru medicine man pointing in the direction of truth, that we're Sherpas, that we're soul Sherpas guiding people to the truth, and that we continuously improve and walk the path ourselves, and that we're leading by example. And I pray that everyone here continues to follow that path and find the best and goodness for all of us moving forward. So thank you for letting me share, and for everyone's time here today. I really truly value and love all of you, and I hope that I can continue to contribute here as well. So and I don't know what the full plan is in terms of next week's meeting. I'm assuming at the same time, and that at least at the top of the agenda is bringing up some of these items and some definitions. And if we have other items, I don't know if that was broken out necessarily, Steve, but if there's an agenda that we need to address to finalize some of these last two meetings conversations and a path forward before we get on with normal business. If we're missing anything, I would love to be able to make sure that we have a contributed agenda in terms of next week, but I'm not sure 100% on terms of what that looks like.
Okay, well, I'll have a conversation with Linda about it too, and you can be included, anybody wants to, but I think we've got it. We want a declaration of love, and we want some kind of structural guidelines.
Can it also be a declaration of independence?
Oh yeah, that's
Okay.
what it is. It's sovereign independence and unity.
Good.
Unity and sovereign independence. I loved your wording about gathering, healing, and reuniting the sacred beings, the sacred nature of all beings of Creator and their tribes.
Can,
Something like that. I'll throw that out. Go ahead. Yeah.
well, I just, in listening to Sergio, I really want, I think that we are, what's the word? I don't even know what the word, protectors, defenders of access to medicine. You know what I mean? In our hearts, that's, we believe in this access to this medicine. And so I want there to a follow up with something. Are we as a council, as a group of tribes, going to have a statement about our support for that foundation? You know,
I'd like to propose something, just because it's something that we've been talking a little bit about, that with this new organization, that part of the mandate, part of the end goal is to be able to, one of the initiatives is to ensure and protect our choice of medical methodology, whether it's protected within the state of our religious preferences, but also I think we've come to a point culturally where we need to address our right to natural versus synthetic health, and that all plant medicines should be protected, and that they're currently under attack because of the pharmaceutical industries. And that part of our position, even as white people in this, is to know the path of how to be able to ultimately protect that. And we have the method, we have the skills to do that. That's my belief, Billy. Does that make sense?
yes, yeah, that makes sense, because that's a little broader context than just, you know, ceremonial ritual, which is already, you know, like being, I love that. It's a broader context that we can support without, you know, I don't know.
Well, here's the one insight, is that, you know, all plant medicines were given to us by Creator for all best purpose and use. And it is not isolated to one group over another. We're here as a family. And that's part of the narrative that we need to shift this towards, which is that we are one united family, and that we have
family.
Yeah, and that we have had these holistic access to medicines tribally for thousands and thousands of years. And that is something that should not and cannot be taken away from the people.
I love that.
Yeah, no one should own a plant and say they own a plant on Mother Earth and someone else can't have it. It just doesn't make any sense. That's where the article should have been about, not just say like, no, this tribe is right. Oh, but this tribe is wrong. This tribe can use the medicine how they want and not share it with white people. This one, they can't. Like, that's why the whole thing was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I just really appreciate you, Sergio, for bringing that like into my consciousness, because I, you know, as a white person, there's a guilt and a sense of like, do I have the right? And yet, as a human being, my soul says, of course I have the right.
Yes.
So there it is.
Yep. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
God, really, I mean, brilliant minds
Mhm.
and brilliant here. Thank you.
And when you say you have the right, what I heard was like, we all have the right to live. And there,
Yeah.
for me, there was a point where I didn't feel like living anymore, you
Mhm.
know? And so we all should have the option, and it should be out there. It shouldn't be something like underground. You
Right.
know, this should be one of the very much so one of the go-tos, whether it's, you know, psilocybin or whatever, you know, when it's properly facilitated, each soul, each individual should have the right to live with abundantly and joyfully, you know.
And to
And
me, the outward movement out of the out, you know, from the elders on the earth to the people is this is all coming out. You know, there were times when these were hidden things, and they don't need to be now.
right.
It's time
Well,
on
in
Earth.
all,
Gotta wake up.
yeah, in all reality, the system has failed all of us. And we ultimately we see that we are in a current culture of broken systems that is ultimately failing all of us. And because it allowed profit to become more important than people. And unfortunately, that has destroyed our entire medical system and our access to what we know works. And what we know works is natural plant medicines, and they need to be used appropriately and responsibly and with best practices and in sacred responsibility and within ceremony as well, because there are appropriate times and places for all of that as well. But part of the initiative is we need to talk about that all plant medicines are a sovereign right to humanity, and that these are all available to all families and all tribes. That's my personal perspective, but
Can I share
I'll leave
one?
my statement at that.
Can I share one more thing? I attended a conference last week called the Conference for Global Transformation, and there was a talk by a gentleman about money. And I think you just touched on one touchstone there. We as human beings created money to serve us. And now so much of the world lives in service to the dollar. And I love that you just brought that up, that's not what we're about.
And I would like to say, maybe as a capstone for this evening, is that the plant medicines are here as medicine, but when I take my medicine, what I come to is my own divinity. And when I own my divinity, I have been healed. And when I see the divinity in you, I am healed. And I think that's this personal sovereignty is the issue. The plant medicines, our relationships with each other, our sharing, our giving, our service is all about individual sovereignty. And there's nothing outside of me that I really need. And yet what is outside of me is me.
You know, one quick thought that I have as well is, you know, I think the biggest tying it back to the article is I think the biggest deep disappointment that we all have had in this is just that it's not reflective ultimately of the very best and highest in us that we know that we've experienced in using these medicines as a tool to heal, because we've all experienced our own healing in that process. The journey that I see with most healers is that they are wounded healers themselves, and that they have found their way in this path because they know how powerfully it impacted them personally, and they want to help others find the light again too and find hope. So thank you all. I love where all of you are and appreciate and value your contributions. I know that we can build this. I'm confident that we can make this work, and I'm sorry that we have to go through this difficult time, but I know that we can rise to the occasion. So that's my 2 cents. I love you all.
Love you. Thank you so much,
Love you.
everybody.
Aho.
All right.
Go.
You guys
Have a
next
beautiful
week.
night.
Everyone sounds complete.
Yep.
Complete.
Thank you, Steve.
You
You're
bet.
wonderful.
Thank you, and you're wonderful. Sergio, I'm so
Take care.
sorry I left you out of that conversation because you're a critical,
Quite all
you're a
right.
critical part of the conversation with me. When I keep saying
Don't worry.
James F. Mooney, NAC, James Mooney, NAC, you're the person that's going to tie that together. So
Yes, I got it.
there's no way I could leave you out of that conversation. I'm so sorry.
No problem
All right, my
at
friend.
all. It's
Bye-bye.
wonderful.